Hello, everyone. I'm here now broadcasting on both my personal channel, SA Baz Collins, and on Rote. And obviously, the focus is on Rote. I decided to switch my weekday broadcast from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to 6 to 8 in the evening. And that's primarily because, as I've said before on numerous occasions on this channel, I'm here living in San Diego again at my parents' home because I'm helping my sister care for our elderly mother. And so during the day, it's just me here, and she has short term memory issues. It's a form of dementia, but it's not the one everybody normally gets, which is the long term memory loss. For my mom, it's the reverse. She has short term memory. You can have a conversation with her, literally ending the sentence, and not even 10 seconds later, she will ask you about what you've already discussed as if you never discussed it at all. So I'm dealing with my mom in that level of short term dementia. It is different from long term. She still knows who we are. She still can recall all kinds of old memories from decades and decades ago with the same clarity of how I remember them. So I know she's not affected in that way. But that, on top of the fact that my husband is also dealing with cancer. And so I've got a lot on my plate during the day. The nice thing about the evenings, and I don't know why I didn't think of this when I decided to do these recordings, was that in the evenings, my sister's home from work. So therefore, she can help my mom. It relieves me of the pressure of trying to juggle many balls up in the air. And I'm a shit juggler, so you know how that goes. But I decided that I was going to switch it to an evening schedule, also because I'm more of a night owl, anyways. I tend to be more active at night. It's just how I've always been. When I wrote my books here, I most of my writing was done in the evening. Um, so it's a part of me that is kind of a thing. Um, so today I want to touch on several topics that I've lined up for us here, and we will get to it in a moment. Um, I want to talk about social contracts. And what I mean by that is there are social norms that we all agree to, um, that how we all perceive, again, perceptions. Remember, that's my golden word on this whole thing. Our perceptions of how society progresses, moves through, and how we deal with legal and social contracts that we have, whether written or just understood and spoken. The problem is we are in an era, due to Captain Kenkel's McTaco tits running things in the White House, um, that he's pushed the Russian playbook to its absolute limit. And what I mean by that, I want to step back for a second. I am classically trained opera singer. I'm retired. I don't perform anymore, primarily because it's a lot of work, and um, I've done it. I for almost like 12 years, I did shows back to back to back to back to back. I just did a lot of productions, and I've had my fill of audience and all that kind of stuff. And actually, for me, in performing, the performing is the icing on the cake. The cake is, I love the rehearsal process. That's my favorite part of production. I love collaborating with the director and the costumers and the makeup artists. That is so much fun to me. The performance, yeah, okay, I'm glad you liked it. Yay, thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting. Bye bye now. I want to get ready for the next show. So I've always kind of had that ability to see things very clearly as to what I know I need to do, where I need to be. And I had a friend of mine, she recently just passed away. Um, and her big thing was she wanted to be a big time singer. Well, one, she didn't know music. I mean, she knew how to sing. I'm not saying she didn't have a voice, but she didn't know the structure of music. She didn't understand harmonies. There's a lot of things she never got exposed to. Um, that I came up in choirs and stuff. I have an ear for listening for harmonies. I have an ear for so I had the background. So she leaned on me a lot for a lot of her musical education when we worked together on stuff. And her big dream was to always want to make it big. And of course, that never happened. She's now gone, and that never happened. But she never gave up hope that she was going to break at some point. Now, this is like she's in her 60s when she passed. So that dream was there the entire time, which is a form of social contract. One of the things that I think makes America very interesting and very unique in many respects is that here we have a strong entrepreneurial spirit. It's in our DNA. The whole reason we exist is because our forefathers, the architects of this democracy, um, understood that the crown of England had broken the social contract between its subjects and its government. And this is something that is repeated a lot of times, especially with authoritarian regimes. And the monarchy is an authoritarian regime, at least until it became a constitutional monarchy. Then it was a different monster. Um, but you have Russia. I worked with a lot of Russians in classical music. This is kind of where I was going at the very beginning before I took that side jaunt about my friend. Um, I worked with a lot of Russians being in classical music. People who were born, reared, and lived a good portion of their lives, did all of their studying in Russia, because when you work in the world of opera, you intermingle. It's international. You sing in multiple languages, so you have a solid understanding of other cultures and stuff because you often have to portray them. And then you end up working with people from sometimes those cultures. Like if you did a Tchaikovsky piece and you had Russians that were in the production, you really got the flavor of what culturally you were supposed to do. So it's sort of a social contract in that as an actor, one of the things you try to do is you use the base of everything you've had in you and your life experiences and those you've seen or experienced with loved ones and close people around you, or even strangers you may have observed. Actors are always in the collection phase, they're always in the sponge phase. If they're good actors, they're always in the sponge phase. They're always trying to take what they can from people's experiences and reactions, and you farm and you nurture things that are beyond your personal scope of where you've been in life, and you hold on to these little snippets of cultural moments and societal moments and personal moments, and it becomes this catalog in your head that when you're acting in a role there, it's almost like a cafeteria. You have all these things in front of you and you're picking and choosing, you know, what is applicable for whatever character you're playing. And that's a form of social contract. The audience understands that you, the performer, are not the person that you're portraying on stage, if you're any good. That is part of a social contract. Okay. It's not a written contract, it's an understood contract. We understand that's how it works. Okay. And we all agree to that's how it works. Now I'm going to give you a social contract that we all abide by. But really, when you really dive down deep into it, it's rather fascinating that when you tear it all down, it's built on a house of cards. And by that, I mean, let's just take what's going on here in the States. Um, we have a very divisive administration in right now that is trying to other anybody who isn't white, cisgendered, and heterosexual, and a Christian. Um, and specifically evangelical Christians. I would even go so far as to say a number of them are very, skeptical of Mormons and Catholics because they're seen as, something other than Christian, even though Catholics were the first ones on the planet. But be that as it may, I digress. The thing that I want to get to is that this administration has been pushing very hard the Russian playbook, which in Russia has been in play for hundreds of years. You have to remember that the Russian populace, by and large, have never left their serfdom behind. Even today in modern Russia, in Moscow and in Ekaterinburg and St. Petersburg and all of these major metropolitan areas, the people still operate as if they are serfs tilling the land. It's inherent in their culture. They have a strong distrust of anything and everyone. Unless you know someone very well, you have a general mistrust. Why? Because even up through the Soviet era, when they moved away from autocracy and or from an autocracy of one kind into another, which is what the Soviet Union was, you can't, and this is the thing, you can't label socialist communism and communism as all bad. The problem with both of those versions of it is that man gets involved, and that's what fucks it up. As a philosophy, if you could implement it the way that it's written and intended, the strong spirit of what communism and socialism is, they actually are quite beneficial to society at large. But the problem is, man gets involved, mostly white men, let's be honest. Man gets involved, and a lot of shenanigans start happening. A lot of buttering of palms and of corruption and all kinds of stuff happens. And in Russia, they have a social contract in that, and it's not a written contract, this is an understood thing. Russians do not comment on political matters. The politics and the Politburo and all of that, the Duma, do their thing. They relay it to the populace. The populace takes it in, but they're not allowed to comment or even, voting there is a joke. It's all predetermined. While I admired Alexei Navalny and I really had hoped that he could bring about change, I knew it was Sisyphusian in nature because he was pushing a very large boulder up a very steep hill, and it just was not going to happen. He came close. He opened up a lot of eyes. But you have to understand that Russia has always blocked real information from eking into its sphere of influence. The Russian propaganda arm, like I said, has been going on since the role or the reign of uh, the czars and tsarinas, the Romanov dynasty, even the other ones like Badenov and the rest of them, but all of the other autocrats and monarchs that ran Russia treated the populace as serfs. That they worked the land, but they did not own the land. They worked for the betterment of everyone. There was no concept of individual, which runs completely antithesis to how we are in America, where individuality reigns supreme, which is why you have this structural dichotomy and this friction between the two concepts of how society should run. But again, they have their own social contracts within the bubble sphere of whatever area we're talking about that they're governing. And that's pretty much true for Britain, for the EU. It's all the same across the board. You have an unwritten, you do have things like constitutions and you have laws on the books and stuff which further define the social contract. But basically the social contract for democracies is that the people elect representatives, because there's no way you could listen to all, in America, 340 million people and get their concise opinions on everything and not it would take forever to get through, just to poll every single person every time on every issue. So as a representative democracy, we elect people we deem to be the best choice at a given time, at a given election, and then we send them to Congress to do things for our betterment as a representative of our communities. And that is a defined role within the Constitution, but the social contract of how that operates is not written. It's something that is inferred, it is something that traditionally has been done. But the problem with those kinds of social contracts is that you can have someone like Trump and his cadre of misfits and idiots who come in like proverbial bulls in the china shop and start smashing shit. And then all of the norms and social contracts we've had up that have suited society by and large, they there's no guardrails. All the guardrails were social contracts that were unwritten. But we've always done it this way until somebody decides we don't. See how that works? So we have the social contracts that are within our governments and our societies. And I just realized I went off my point earlier that I was going to give you one that is a social contract, which is really, really, when you dive deep into it, you know it's on a house of cards. We have either a state issued ID or a state issued driver's license. You absolutely need one if you're in this country. You need one of the two. Um, that ID is verified when you first get it. You bring your birth certificate in. But what really is the birth certificate? Huh? Before we used to actually take a baby's footprint, put it on ink, and then put it on the back of the birth certificate. So at least there was some sort of print that tied the document to the actual person. But we don't do that anymore. There really is nothing that guarantees that that birth certificate is truly who you are for your birth certificate. There's nothing that ties you to it, really. There's no DNA sample on it. There's just nothing that ties it to you other than you use the legal name that is legally on that document. And it's an understood agreement that we all think that way. But again, it's not really substantially based. It's not something that is on firm ground. It's shaky and quicksandy at best. Then you take it up to like now, they require us to have what's called a real ID in America. And that is a government verified piece of either your ID card or your driver's license. And it has a special logo on it that shows that the government acknowledges you are indeed a citizen, you are indeed a functioning member of society, we recognize you, blah, 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 blah. But again, the documents you take with you to prove who and what you are have no DNA that ties you to it. We just all agree, both the government as an organization and we as members of society in that umbrella, we agree and we acknowledge that that is a thing. When in reality, physically, it's not. So our social contracts, our social binding to common decency, to rule of law, to all of this stuff is at its root on well intended and well uh, um, thought out, guardrails that keep society chugging along. And when people break those social contracts, be it, murder or, rape, whatever, they will actually be, taken in and be prosecuted and all that kind of stuff. So there are repercussions and consequences for breaking those social contracts, be they legally or ethically or morally. We have means to deal with those things until we don't. And one of the things Trump, Captain Kinkles McTaco Tits, has been trying to do is to take the Russian propaganda playbook. And what I mean by that is, in Russian society, the narrative is 100% controlled by the state. All TV shows are run by the state. They've gotten rid of independent media. Most of those media companies that existed in Russia pre-Ukraine war, they have all been pushed out of the country. Most of them are broadcasting from Lithuania and other Slavic countries, and they broadcast on the internet. And the only way Russian people can continue to see them is if they use a VPN. But now even Russia's looking to put the wall down on the VPNs. They're forcing all Russian citizens to use a metro kind of ID that allows them access to the internet, which means you're being monitored. Okay. So the social contract between the Russian government and the Russian people is the government governs, makes decisions, the populace deals with those decisions, but the populace agrees that they will not protest something they don't like as long as the government doesn't force the populace into a horrible position. Now, Ukraine has tested that to the nth degree, and Putin is now losing it. And I mean losing it as in his wits, and losing it as in the battle at hand. Because the populace doesn't like what's going on. Many of the Russians in the populated cities of Russia have relatives who live in Ukraine, who are Ukrainian. But in the beginning, the Russian state media clamped down on any information being passed to the Russian populace. And if some did leak in, the first thing they did was do what? Do what? What did they say? What? Oh, it was fake news. Sound familiar? The thing that you need to get about the Russian propaganda machine is that it has been playing for a very long time. It has gotten better over the decades to the point now where they will say one thing and then say another thing on the same subject from opposing points of view, so that the populace has no idea what's the real truth, what's really going on. And they do it purposely. They will argue both sides of the same story with the same vehemence they had for whatever the position was the day before. And that causes confusion, which is exactly what the GOP is doing now. They throw a lot of shit up on the wall, hoping some of it sticks as a distraction while they loot, pillage, and rape the coffers of the US government. Make no mistake, that's exactly what they're doing. And as part of our social contract with our representatives, I am appalled that Schumer and Jeffries, I had such high hopes for Jeffries. I really did. But he has proven to be a very, very weak leader for this time. And the fact that they still do this meritocracy thing, where they had that one senator or one congressman that they wanted to push it in front of as the head of the judiciary oversight, and instead of AOC, who would have been the far better choice. And he had cancer and he ended up dying a few months into this administration. So what was all that for? It was just because, oh, well, he's been around forever. It's his turn. I'm sorry. Life is not fair all the time. And sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And sorry, it moved on without you. That's life. That's life, kids. Children, step forward. You need to understand this. You will not always get your way. Okay? Grapple with that and embrace it now. All your whining and your, I don't want this, that kind of bullshit. Yeah, you know what? Life doesn't care. It really doesn't care. It will fuck you over time and time again. And as my father said, without lube, and you ain't been kissed. So you just need to understand what's in play here. I plan on doing tomorrow I want to talk a bit about reaction channels. And like I said, I watch around the world, so I have a wide range of reaction channels. And I want to talk about them specifically because they are flying in the face, they're actually ignorant, or they are intentionally eschewing what's going on politically in the world in favor of their own monetary gains for their channels. And by that I mean, and I don't want to get into it fully today, but I will tomorrow. I'll have stuff prepared. Um, but the social narrative that goes on here on YouTube, and I would assume TikTok, and but I'm not even bothering with TikTok. I was going to put stuff up there, and I'm just not going to bother because it is owned by a bunch of right wing idiots. It is Twitter 2.0, in my opinion. So I'm out. I'm just not going to bother. Not even worth my time. And those who are on TikTok, get the fuck off. Cancel that fucking platform. Just move on. That's my 2 cents on it. And yet, YouTube is having its issues too. Um, we have these terms of services, and remember, though, that when the House writes the terms of service, it's always going to be in their favor, always. And these platforms, these techno platforms, need to have some culpability for the things they allow to happen when they know there are malignant actors and malignant players within their sphere, within their platform, and they do nothing about it, because it adds to the drama. It brings it brings the boys to the yard, as the song likes to go. So I want to look at a couple of things that I think are very, very interesting. The first one is from Taylor Lawrence. I'm going to put my ear in so I can hear what's going on. Should have done this earlier. Sorry about that. So let's switch it up and put it in. Pop this bad boy in. Okay, so this is Taylor Lawrence, and the title of it is Nobody Wants to Post Anymore. And I think this is going to be pretty much along the lines of what I've been talking about. So let's give a listen and see what they have to say.
Like, as a creator, you're kind of stuck between getting ignored and doing your own thing for a tiny crowd, or getting swept away in this massive tide of slop and garbage. Like,
back in the early days of the internet, social media offered a space where anyone could casually share thoughts, fleeting moments, and observations about the world. Casual posting was the norm, and the online world felt spontaneous and personal. But lately, that culture has disappeared. It's been replaced by highly curated influencer content, manufactured viral slop, and it feels like everyone is just posting less. Kyle Chayka is a writer at The New Yorker, and he recently explored this phenomenon in an article titled, "Are You Experiencing Posting Ennui?" He joins me to talk about the death of casual posting online and what this shift says about the future of the internet. Kyle, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So what made you want to write this article about posting ennui? And can you kind of describe this phenomenon?
I mean, I wanted to write an article about posting ennui because I was feeling it myself. Posting ennui is not a phrase that anyone was using in particular. This is my own sense of just being apathetic about posting, like feeling this aversion to putting stuff out there, not feeling like I was getting as much back when I did post things, and just feeling a little bit alienated, I guess, from the normal social media feeds. And I think lately, as I've thought about posting my breakfast or, what I eat for dinner, or those kind of cliches of social media, I just have felt like there's no place for that anymore. And I wanted to explore.
And that's the thing, in the beginning, yeah, it was kind of fun, but there was a commercial I remember back in the day, where they had it was a Google, I think it was for Google search or Yahoo search. I think it was Yahoo search, actually, now that I think about it, and how they were looking at political scandals, and they had they showed a research, like a search line. Somebody typed in political scandal or whatever, And then it shot to a room with a bunch of people all dressed differently or whatever, and they were representing the research or the search responses, the hit list. And you would see all these political people there, these pundits or whatever. And then in the middle would be this guy dressed in a Roman toga with sandals. And the big conversation was, because it was political scandals, and then it says, "What the hell is this Roman guy with Romans? Oh, he's always here," And it was a very funny way of showing the fallacies of search engines and the degree of accuracy that they had, especially in the early days. But we did do a lot of the posting of just miscellaneous bullshit. I mean, just what? What are we doing? I think I did it once or twice when I took my granddaughter out to lunch, and we would do lunches on every Saturday. And it was kind of our time to go off and just enjoy ourselves and have wonderful conversation and enjoy a meal together. So it was just something I loved doing. And I miss it greatly. But I think I've posted maybe once or twice what we had for lunch and our conversations, and did that as a post. And then I thought, nobody wants to see this. I mean, my granddaughter and I really enjoyed ourselves. We had a great time, but right, in people's day-to-day lives, who was looking for that shit? Nobody, So I had to be honest with myself and say, yeah, this is a waste of time. So I no longer do anything like that. In fact, I've given up on the facial book, and nobody posts X if you have half a brain cell and you want to keep your mental health going. So I ended that relationship. So it's like, I don't think I've posted on Facebook since 2019, 2018. It's been a while. I backed up all my stuff from the platform. I've yet to delete the account. I need to go up there and do that. But I haven't posted since then. I haven't been online on Facebook at all. I have no desire to do that. And I find this really fascinating because I kind of felt this way back, but I just kind of didn't know when the rest of society would catch up to this point. So let's continue. But I just thought it's interesting, that he, this ennui that he's talking about definitely is something that in the early parts of social media, I got tired of it real fast. I even got tired of seeing other people post mundane shit. I'm like, yeah, scroll. I had no interest, none. And I just began to slowly realize, what the fuck am I doing? I'm spending all my time on this bullshit. So anyways, let's get back to it.
Or that and see if anyone else is feeling the same thing. And it turns out they definitely are.
When Twitter started, I feel like there was this whole meme of like, no one wants to see what you had for lunch. And that was used really in the late aughts and early 2010s sort of as this argument against social media, where it was like, who cares about the silly, mundane aspects of your life? And it turned out a lot of people did. And I feel like for millennials, a lot of the day-to-day posting is kind of what helped birth the rise of social media.
Yeah, that's what I was recalling in this piece. I mean, I was thinking back to 2009 through 2011, say, and that era when it actually felt new and different to post a photo of your lunch online. Like, as you say, that was the cliche. That was the aspersion that you cast. That was the insult. Like, stop posting your lunch because
Well, here's the other part of it too. There's a video that I need to have us watch, and maybe I'll queue it up today, but there's a video that I just watched from More Perfect Union, and if you aren't aware of that channel, you should definitely go check it out. They have some fabulous little short documentaries they do on tough subjects, but they did one on why is restaurant food all beginning to taste the same, and it's about the conglomerates that provide food to restaurants. And very, very fascinating. I think we should see that at some point. But let's get back into what he's saying.
No one else cares. But actually, that kind of mundane material and just like the everyday content of your life, that's what makes social media what it was, at least. Like, it's everyone throwing out their random thoughts and making stupid jokes and posting the funny thing that they saw or the funny thing that their pet did. And that's kind of what made it fun.
I want to kind of walk through how social media changed. So if, the social media of the late aughts and early 2010s was defined by this like casual posting and documenting everything, even the like mundane aspects of your daily life, like how did things change as the 2010s progressed, and how people use social media change?
I think at first we were kind of making up a new format, right? Like suddenly we were in this real-time feed of millions of different people posting all the time, and we were like figuring out how to interact with other people and what might be interesting to other people. So at that point everything felt fresh and new, like we're doing this grand experiment together. Then I feel like over the course of the 2010s, like let's say by the mid 2010s, that kind of fossilizes, and that insult emerges, like, why are you posting photos of your lunch? No one cares. Because I think social media, it started to become more politicized in a way, like certainly by the 2016 election.
I actually want to like dig in on that year specifically, because 2016 is also when Instagram launched stories. And I feel like the rise of ephemeral content kind of weaned people off posting, because you used to have to post, like you'd have to do a hard post. If you wanted to share a picture of like your lunch, like you were hard posting that on Instagram, which feels crazy now. And then I feel like there was Snapchat and Instagram stories really in like 2015 and 2016. And you started to see like the boomerangs, and like a lot of that like posting behavior moved to more ephemeral formats.
For sure. I mean, I think to me, posting in this article is like all kinds of posting. Like it is about Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram and Snapchat in that era. And I feel like, as you were saying, during that time, everything was a hard post. Like everything went to everyone. You kind of had to accept that if you were going to post banal stuff, it had to sit right next to things that were really important or things that mattered. So then when Snapchat pioneered that format of the disappearing post and more posting moved to less visible spaces, let's say, then I think people got more used to hiding those banal moments or like controlling more closely how those banal moments reached people.
Also, there was this concept really kind of later in the 2010s of keeping a short Instagram grid. There was like trend articles written about this, like Gen Z doesn't keep a long Instagram grid or whatever. But it seems like people also started to sort of change their ideas around privacy and kind of like the digital footprint that they had amassed.
That's one thing that I think my generation, the boomer generation, we kind of take heart. My husband doesn't have any kind of social media presence. And it's primarily because his position is the government knows too much about you already. Don't give them any more. And if you don't think that they aren't monitoring all these social media platforms, and there are farms out there that have collected this data on US citizens. Your phone listens to you. Why do you think your advertising and the advertisings that come up on your phone are oddly specific to things you recently talked about with friends or loved ones? What's that about? So the idea of posting everything, you were monetizing yourself for others. You were giving them information about you that they were able to sell to other entities and make money off of your own actions that you gave up freely. It's another reason why I stopped posting stuff. I think that by doing this channel, this is about the most social media I want to do for the rest of my life. This is about as far as I want to go. I don't even want to pretty much do a lot of posting up on my personal channel. I'm now streaming this there as well, but I just because I want to be able to do short clips from these live broadcasts on topics that I find very interesting. But here's the thing: I think that we all need to take a big step back. There's also the element of allure, and this is something we've lost because we are doing too much posting. I said it before, and in a previous iteration, previous video, but women have lost the script, and I'm not taking men out of this. Believe me, I've got issues with straight men, but women have lost the ability to use the most powerful weapon in their arsenal, and that is allure. They now are too revealing about everything from the clothing they wear to what they post online. There is too much revelation. Men are very visual. We are wired to be visual and be visually stimulated. That is just how the male psyche works. When you have, and you can be intellectualized about it as much as you want and say, "Oh, but I've weaned myself from watching porn, or I don't do this anymore." You can intellectualize it all you want. The root of who we are as men is still visual stimulation. That's what works. That's our trigger. Unless, of course, you're visually impaired. But that's literally what draws attraction, what makes things attractive to men is a visual appeal. The thing is, when you put everything up online, not only are you giving it to the government for free and to these platforms who will sell that information and make money off of your free information that you've given up freely, which is why the applications are free, because they're making money off of what you post. So stop feeding the monster. That's why I say, limit yourself to social media. Do what my mom and my sister now watch YouTube for all of their media content more than they watch regular. I think my mom watches like The View on regular channel TV, regular broadcast TV. And I think she catches Nicole Wallace in the afternoons on MSNBC. But otherwise, she's on YouTube. I've shown them the value of being able to pick and choose what you want to watch on YouTube, and that it's at your beck and call, and it's according to whatever you're in the mood for at the time that you want to watch it. And they realize they can watch a lot of the things that they used to watch on regular TV on YouTube because it often gets posted after it's already been played in broadcast TV. So they've completely switched. So, I watch all this shit going on, like with Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and all the shit that Trump is pushing via the FCC. And yet, most of mainstream society, a good chunk of it, no longer consumes that media. Every single news organization has complained about their viewership falling off. Well, Fox and Friends and the rest of those motherfuckers, they're really going to lose out big because 90% of their audience are aging people who are dying off. At some point, they have to be able to appeal to the younger demographics. And the younger demographics gave them a try this go around in 2024. And now they're seeing the outcome. And they're not liking it. So what's Fox going to do then? Give it 10 years. What are they going to do then? You think Gen Alpha and Gen Z are going to be Fox viewers? A portion of them may be, but the vast majority will not. It's like mainstream media has not caught on that they are the radio of the television age. They have not caught on that they are the live theater to movies and television and film. See what I mean? And mainstream media, why do you think a lot of these mainstream journalists have their own channels now? Because then they can talk freely and do whatever the hell they want to say. My favorite on MSNBC was Chris Hayes. I like Chris Hayes a lot. I think he's very informed. He's a very intelligent guy, and I like what his wife does on her legal podcast. So, they are really representative of where a lot of what I think and feel is in line with what but they also are willing to question what position they're holding. They like to dig into the murkiness of any given topic. And I like that about them. But they can't do a lot of what they want to do on their own platform of mainstream media. They have to do what the big higher bosses say is the line that they must toe. Well, a lot of these journalists with some form of integrity are leaving mainstream media and starting their own YouTube channels. And a lot of them are doing quite well. You have Mehdi Hassan over at Zateo, full supporter here. Love what he's doing. I'm a big Mehdi Hassan fan. You have Joy Reid, who was recently let go from MSNBC, Don Lemon from CNN, Jim Acosta, CNN. So you have all of these major journalists who have now seen the value of picking up the baton in independent media on YouTube and on Substack and are running with it there. And they have much more intellectual freedom to do what they do best and what their passion is. And I think when we see all this stuff with the FCC chairman, and this is a dying monster, that this dinosaur is dying. It's literally on its last breath, which is a paradigm shift. And that's when people get fucking freaked out. I mentioned this yesterday. A paradigm shift is when we do one thing one way. That is the current paradigm that we all agree to. That is a social contract that we're all agreeing to. This is how our world operates. And when somebody breaks that and things start developing in a new way, i.e. social media, then there is a huge paradigm shift. And that period in between from the time it breaks to what the new thing will become in the new paradigm, then you have chaos. And that's where grifting occurs. That's where all of this stuff happens. And I think that we were not as cognizant of what we were signing onto with those terms of service on these social media platforms. One, because it was a new toy. We were a kid with a new toy, let's be honest. That's where we were with it. But we now know better. We've seen the outcomes. Hell, even in Britain, they're clamping down on protesting. And at some point, I will show the Tom Nichols expose on that. Like I said, I watch media from around the world. I want to see what's going on in other parts of the world. There's another video about expats leaving America for Spain. Okay, you want to be in Europe where Russia's threatening Europe right now? And yes, Russia's on the verge of collapse, so maybe it won't happen, but you're right off their fucking back door. I don't know that I would want to be there. And I understand things are shitty here, but maybe move to a blue state if you're in a red one. There are things that still can happen here in the States. I don't know that running away right now is the thing to do. It's getting close. It's getting close. Many people don't see that Mexico is on the rise and that pretty soon the traveling of immigrants is going to go the other way. Mexico is working on a new canal system between the Atlantic and the Pacific. And once that baby's in place, they're going to run the show. So Mexico is an up and coming society. They are going to grow by leaps and bounds. And they are still a globalist economy. They still are working with trading partners. They still understand the value of global markets. Whereas America is on this fucking batshit crazy idea that, we bring manufacturing back. No, we can't. We don't have the manufacturing facilities here. We'd have to build them. And that takes 5 to 10 years to get everything running and in place and with supply chains coming in. It's not a simple put an Acme box down, pour water on it, and boom, you got a factory. That's not how it works. So it's all a lie. Everything this administration tells you is a lie. Take it from me, or don't take it from me. Do your own research, like I said, do the work. But everything this administration is saying is a lie. You must presume that from the get-go. They are obfuscating everything, throwing shit up on the wall en masse, just so they can distract you while they pillage the coffers of the U.S. The value of the dollar is going down. And I'm saying, in agreement with them, stop giving them free shit. Stop posting shit about your life. There was an allure back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s before the internet became a real thing, where we didn't know a lot about each other. It forced us to be social with one another. And Americans did what we did best. We socialized. Nothing has been more detrimental than social media. It has done the exact opposite. It has desocialized us. Anyways, let's get back to what he's saying.
Yeah, I wonder if that change is kind of about thinking of social media as an archive of your life and like an ongoing record, and that shifting to social media being a curated picture of your life at a given moment. Like, I don't know, on Facebook in the early days, it was just kind of everything you had ever posted and every like relationship change since you were 16. Like, we've kind of lost that sense of social media, and now your social media account is like your LinkedIn in a way. It's like your lifestyle portfolio. It represents you. And so you curate it more and you worry more about what it looks like as a whole.
What role do you feel like algorithmic feeds played in all of this? Because 2015, 2016 is also when we started to see like algorithmic feeds, but really, I think they've accelerated in the 2020s. Do you think part of it is also just like posting the more mundane stuff? Like that stuff just does not rank well in the algorithm and it kind of feels like pointless. Like it's so embarrassing to post something benign, I don't know, about like your daily life or something silly and it gets like no engagement. You're like, why did I even post this?
I think it has to do with how algorithmic feeds disconnect you from your audience, actually. Like before the algorithmic era, you kind of knew who you were talking to on the internet. You had a sense of who the like 100 or 200 followers who actually mattered to you were. Like you knew your tweet would reach them or you knew your Instagram would be seen by your friends. And I think the gamble of algorithmic social media was just that we rely on the algorithm to show us stuff we're interested in rather than choosing who we're interested in seeing posts from. And so that means that you don't know who you're reaching and you also don't know who you're consuming. Like in the algorithmic feed, you're getting posts from random people from accounts you don't know. And that lack of context means you really don't care about their breakfast photos. Like, if it's not your friends, then yeah, maybe you don't want to see that kind of content. And then I think it slowly disincentivizes the posting of that kind of casual stuff. You kind of feel unsafe throwing out a random thought, or you don't know that your followers will interpret it in the way that you mean it.
There's a lot more like context collapse for sure. And you don't have that like emotional bond as much, I guess, with like the people that you're following. So you're just kind of like, why is someone's random sandwich in my feed? Like, I don't care or know that person.
Though at the same time, like, some of that content is good. Like, I think part of the thesis of this article is that if that stuff went away entirely, social media would be bankrupt, right? It would only be professional content.
Another thing with algorithmic feeds, I feel like, is just that your content is suddenly mashed in between increasingly like inflammatory content, engagement bait, and just like horrific news. I think 2016 was this turning point for politics online. Obviously, Trump's election made people a lot more political throughout the 2010s. And you talked in your piece about, I think it was one girl saying like, I feel kind of awkward sharing my benign like daily life now when there's just the whole internet is just full of atrocities. So is it just like that our world is so miserable that this stuff seems trivial?
There's now no separation between the trivial and the horrific, right? Like your breakfast photo sits right next to footage from Gaza or news about more weapons going to Ukraine, or you name the horrible thing that's going on, the ICE raids in the United States. So it does feel weird or awkward or just like bad to put your own random thoughts next to those things. But I mean, feeds have been drifting that way for a long time, right? Now there is that whole context collapse. There's no differentiation between any kind of content. It all just exists in this huge real-time stream of multimedia. That is alienating the normal user from wanting to post their life when it has to sit next to this horrific imagery.
It feels awkward and kind of insensitive almost to post.
Yeah, and as I was researching this article, I did just put out calls on social media just to be like, how are you feeling about posting these days? And I was actually surprised at how many people got back to me with that answer. Like they really did feel alienated and kind of concerned and just bad about their own content sitting next to this terrible news that they wanted to engage with. Like they're not ignoring the news, but they just can't see how they fit in with this whole landscape of, real-time headlines about war and violence.
It's funny because it feels like actually like Twitter spillover. Like that was always this sort of concern about Twitter. Like, for instance, when the Boston bombing was happening, right? And some brand would tweet and you'd be like, how could you tweet at this time? And it's like, maybe now that it seems like news has led to all these other apps, we all kind of feel that sense of nervousness.
I mean, people talk to me a lot about Instagram stories. They were like, oh, Instagram stories is where your life goes, where your casual posts go. But you're still sitting right next to, the publications you follow, posting news updates and links to stories and, activist memes and, projects from people you follow. And so that kind of mixture, like the mixture of news and personal stuff, follows you everywhere. I don't think there's a safe space away from that except for maybe your own newsletter or something, like your own totally controlled space.
It feels like Instagram stories also has just become less of a place to talk about what you're doing and yourself and more to express like your ideas and beliefs. And I think like 2020 infographic culture, like also when they made it easy to reshare content from Instagram to your story, like I think that changed the dynamic because initially like you couldn't do that and you had to just post, like you had to upload photos in your own content. And now I feel like so much of Instagram stories is resharing and amplifying other content.
Yeah. So it becomes about curating what you're presenting to other people more so. It's like you are only doing retweets. Like you can only share the posts that already exist and you're a little bit discouraged from just making things on your own. And yet that like we all want original content, right? Like we're not there just to see how many people are reposting the same meme. So it kind of feels duplicitous in a way.
And let's not get it twisted. I mean, the reason why they're allowing you to do this is because it creates engagement. Their whole purpose is to keep you on the platform as long as they possibly can. So they're going to do everything they can. So why wouldn't they open that avenue up? It's only amplifying stuff on their own platform. It's all just the money. It's all about the money. It always has been about the money. And you're what they're marketing. So yeah, I'm going to kind of end this part of it here. I want to move on to something else that is becoming a thing. Let's talk a little bit culturally about the whole MAGA and ICE thing going on. I follow a guy called Off Jawagon. He's really funny. I just find him really amusing. And he pulls no punches. He says what he needs to say. This is his take on Zach Bryan's ICE song that he just released and Bad Bunny performing in the Super Bowl halftime, at least so far. We don't know if they're going to try and get him out of there. And let's see what he has to say about it.
Man, conservatives are having a bad week, musically speaking. First, the Super Bowl is going to have a brown guy in a dress singing in Spanish, and they're big mad about it because they're going to have to figure out how to hide their erection at the Super Bowl party. And then Zach Bryan is dropping a song, Shit Talkin' Ice, and that's got their Donnie Depends in a big bunch. Now, I'm not a huge fan of either of these artists, but for different reasons, although I'm becoming bigger fans as of late. Like Bad Bunny, the only reason I know he exists is because my wife's brother-in-law has like traveled for a show, is just huge fan, so he talks about him sometimes. But that's just a me thing, because, I'm not very hip to pop culture because I'm a crabby old man at heart, but apparently he's one of the biggest artists on the planet, like Taylor Swift level artist. And because of the extent of the Spanish that I can speak as uno más cerveza por favor, I will probably never understand a single one of his song lyrics, at least without Google Translate, and I feel like it loses the flow. Although, I don't know, when Google Translate read off the translation in the AI voice for Gasolina, it was kind of a banger, so who knows? But the entertainment provided by the mega meltdowns between now and the Super Bowl is going to make him go down in history as one of the greatest entertainers of all time. It is a little depressing, though, to see how many of these trailer park pedophile protectors don't understand that Puerto Ricans are American citizens.
Yeah,
like,
that part
ICE
right
is
there.
Gonna show up to the Super Bowl and deport him. Deport him where, motherfucker? America? He's from here. Also, the United States is the second largest Spanish-speaking country on the planet behind Mexico. Despite Kid Rock saying that having Bad Bunny perform at the Super Bowl is an insult to American music, an American citizen singing Spanish at one of the largest events in the second largest Spanish-speaking country on the planet seems pretty American. That being said, though, and I don't say this often, but maybe we should listen to Kid Rock, as he is the foremost expert at being an insult to American music. But MAGA hadn't even had a chance to dislodge their diapers from their ass crack over that meltdown when Zach Bryan dropped a teaser for his new song, Shit Talkin' Ice. Now, if you don't know who Zach Bryan is, he's a modern kind of outlaw country singer. You don't hear a ton of his stuff on mainstream country radio, but his music's in a similar vein to Coulter Wall, Tyler Childers, Sturgill Simpson. He's just a dick of a human being, it seems like. Gets very possessive and emotionally abusive in relationships. And that shit, not fucking cool. And apparently he's just rumors that he's just sort of all around an asshole of a person. So unless he comes out and publicly apologizes and shows some growth as a human, I probably won't be buying a Zach Bryan concert ticket or album anytime in the future because I don't want to support that shit financially. But that doesn't change the fact that he is an incredible artist and songwriter, and it doesn't change the sweet, sweet nectar of MAGA's reaction as they realize another person like Sturgill Simpson and Tyler Childers, people who they were big fans of and identify with and who they thought were like them, that revelation that their heroes hate them as much as the rest of the world does, just fucking delicious. Now they're trying to downplay his career, which is objectively incredibly successful. Trying to be like, how could he possibly be mean to ICE, who's out there risking their lives every day to abduct children from their families in Call of Duty raids out of helicopters? Now, of course, they're gonna cancel Zach Bryan like they canceled Netflix and the NFL and everything else that's ever hurt their fucking feelings, saying that country fans want the artist to be patriotic, not anti-fascist, I guess. But what I just don't understand is how they keep getting surprised by this. Like, I get that a lot of MAGA thinks that they are country fans, but you can be a country fan or a Jason Aldean fan. Not really both. You see, the real country version of Try That in a Small Town is Copperhead Road, and it wasn't Juan who never came back from Copperhead Road. And in that song, Steve Earle certainly had some strong feelings about feds and choppers. Johnny Cash damn sure wasn't the man in black because he was a bootlicker, which is exactly why he sang that song at the White House in 1970 to give Richard Nixon the finger. Merle wrote Okie from Muskogee to make fun of racist, regressive conservatives. Don't even get me started on Christofferson. And speaking of Super Bowls, in 1993, Garth Brooks delayed kickoff for the first time in Super Bowl history for 45 minutes, all because he refused to sing the national anthem until they played the music video for his new song, We Shall Be Free. A song and music video with powerful imagery condemning racism, homophobia, government overreach, and police brutality that he wrote in response to the LA riots. See, country ain't for cucks who bootlick the government and never has been, so I don't get why they're so surprised every time they find out another one of their heroes hates them. Anyway, guys, if your hero's hating you, pisses you off, buckle up, because this is only going to get worse from here on out. Every single day, you fascist fucks are crossing another line for another person. And y'all are gonna keep finding out that while you guys are truly shitty, just vile human beings, the vast majority of people who you think are just like you really aren't. And remember that nobody wants to be a Nazi when the Nuremberg trial starts, so plan accordingly. And conservatives are having...
I really love how he looks at a lot of these things because, yeah, he really calls a spade in that. And there really is no reason for us to give these people space if they're being that shitty. If they're an awful human being, call it out. You know, you can have an asshole, just choose not to be one. You can have a dick, just choose not to be one. It's pretty fucking simple, people. Okay, latest thing up. I'm going to end here on Bill Burr and his acceptance of blood money from the Saudis and performing at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. And I think the thing that blows my mind more than anything is that Bill Burr built his entire career off of common sense or a way of deconstructing smoke and mirrors in a given situation so that you had a clear vision of the situation at hand. And all he's doing now, because he got caught going to this Riyadh Comedy Festival, taking blood money from the Saudis, is he's pissed that his fans are calling him out for it. Consequence, motherfucker. Consequence. Let's see what Kyle has to say about it.
So Bill Burr, I gotta be honest, keeps making it worse for himself after he decided to sell out and take Saudi blood money. And now I think he's either doubling down, might even be tripling down on this, but this is the worst of all of his responses because he's basically like scolding and lecturing his own fans here and accusing them of being liars for being critical of him going to Saudi Arabia to get a bag of $1.6 million. So here we go. He talked about this on his Monday morning podcast. Let's listen. and we will break it down.
Hey, what's going on? It's Bill Burr, and it's time for the Monday Morning Podcast for Monday, August 6, 2025. What's going on? How are ya? Oh, Jesus, how's it going in your neck of the woods there? It's not going so good in my neck of the woods. I'll tell you that. The sanctimonious is sanctimonian.
So what he's saying is, if you criticized him going to Saudi Arabia and selling out for $1.6 million in blood money and agreeing to censorship terms as he was there, you're sanctimonious. If you're let down. I don't know if he's just playing stupid, but a lot of people looked up to Bill Burr as like this beacon of integrity, right? Because he would call out other comedians and celebrities for selling out in such a way.
Mm-hmm.
He would crusade against billionaires.
That part right
so
there.
Apparently to Bill, the billionaires are pieces of shit. But a trillionaire
gets a free
who
pass.
runs a theocratic dictatorship, that's totally fine. All right, we're just getting started.
Keyword on the monian. Oh, Jesus. All right, here's the deal. You guys are asking me, obviously, a ton of questions about the absolute controversy, all right? Here's the deal. I have no problem answering any of them. The problem I have is after I answer them, it all gets clipped. And then once it gets clipped, then the lies start getting told, or they start shaping it and making it this and making it that. So all I'm doing is just throwing another log on the fire.
Okay, but you're already throwing another log on the fire now by responding, so why wouldn't you get a little more specific and a little more detailed in your responses? Could it be because you actually know that your responses are total bullshit and people would reject them? So you're going to respond while pretending like you're not responding? Also, I fucking hate the, people are going to twist it. Or people are understanding the situation accurately and they're fucking disappointed and disgusted with you selling out in such a brazen way. Or that, Bill, or that.
So all I'm doing is just throwing another log on the fire, and then they can make more money. No, I'm sorry. Well, oh, no, because they care so much. That's right. Sorry, not because they're just making money.
This is fucking disgusting. So in other words, what he's saying is all the people like me and people like outlets that write about this, people like other channels that cover comedy sometimes in a critical way and have talked about this. According to Bill, all the people who are criticizing him, we're the money-obsessed ones. We are. I'm the money-obsessed one.
Yet who took the 1.6 million bag?
$512 that I'm going to make off this video, right? Whereas, Bill, you just took $1.6 million from a guy who bone-sawed a journalist and executed people for tweets and did a genocide in Yemen. You're not the money-hungry one. It's me. It's us. It's everybody who talks about it and dares to criticize you.
Yep.
This is unbelievable, bro. This is unbelievable. Like, okay, I went from being like, you know what, fuck Bill Burr, to now it's like, fuck Bill Burr. Like, I will never go to one of his fucking shows. I'll never support him ever again. Like, he is a scummy little fucking liar. Because, you know what? I don't know. You tell me, is he just lying to us, or is he also lying to himself? I get the sense he's not only lying to us right now, but he's convinced himself of his own horse shit.
Exactly.
He's convinced himself, oh yeah, anybody who's criticizing me is just doing it for the money. First of all, 99.9% of the people criticizing you are making zero money off criticizing you. They're just going, hey, I was a big fan and now I'm not because you fucking sold out, right? How does that have anything to do with money? He's also pretending like, oh, it's just, other people with platforms or with a magazine or whatever who are criticizing him. Watch this. Ready? Scrolling down. Bill performing in North Korea. Dude, they had a fucking grocery store full stocked. Everyone was smiling. Everyone has the same haircut. Like, it was sick, dude. If Norm were here, he'd probably say the worst part wasn't the hypocrisy, it was the bone saws. Pre-2025, the Monday Morning Podcast. Current era, the Monday Morning Comment Section. Billy, not afraid to answer the tough questions unless it has anything to do with being a hypocrite Burr. If you are part of the sanctimonious crowd mocking Bill, consider this. 1, they have a Chili's and a Timberlands. 2, some pretty ladies were in attendance. 3, they paid Bill a lot of money. I think that settles it. Like, hey man, they have a Chili's over there. They can't be evil. They have a Burger King. Were you being sanctimonious when you spoke out against billionaire CEOs, Bill? Was that the bots getting everybody mad? Or was that just your fucking hypocrisy? As a Saudi slaveholder, I'm a big fan of your work. And this goes on. This is fucking everybody. Bill Burr's next gig, United Healthcare corporate gig. Quote, hey, once you get to know the top brass, not bad dudes. They're just like us. Billy, billionaires are bad, but trillionaires are good, Burr. Do you see the problem here, Bill? All real people are mad at you. All people who have any integrity, any principles, are mad at you. Because they thought you were a real one, but you're not. but you're not.
And my comment is, what the fuck is his wife thinking in this? Girl, get your man in line. I know you can. Get that shit straightened out. Get him on an apology tour and get him to start atoning for what he did. He best donate that blood money. That's all I'm saying.
You're a fucking sellout, just like the rest
And I
of
was
us.
a huge
All right.
fan.
You know, but I do have to tell you, this is fascinating because I've never been in the middle of one of these fucking things. And my whole life, when I watch the news, you know, not every fucking news story, but there's
He's never been in the middle of one of those things. Yeah, because you didn't do something really fucking shitty before. This is. So maybe we'll go back to what you were doing before. Just saying. Just saying, Bill.
been a lot of shit where you watch it going like, yeah, I don't know, it kind of seems like that kind of fucking dick. So to finally be in the middle of it and the level of like straight up lies is just, it's wild.
Now listen to what he autistically focuses on to try to exonerate himself. This is interesting.
And I'll be honest with you, I've been off the internet for like a fucking month, but just the shit people have been sending. It's funny, you get off the internet and people still send you shit. So like these stories of like there was no women there.
So somebody wrote an article saying there was no women there, and you think that's why everybody's mad at you? Bill, do you think it makes a difference that there were women there? Do you think that makes a difference? Do you think that makes a difference to the heart of the criticism against you? Oh my God, man. This is unbelievable.
Just performed to the Royals. By the time they're done with...
Oh, that's you. Oh, I got mad because one person said I only performed for the Royals, and I didn't. I performed for both the Royals and an audience of 8,000 other people. You think this is the heart of the criticism against you? You think everybody who's criticizing you thinks there were no women there and you only performed for the Royals? I got news for you. 99% of us don't think that, and we're still fucking criticizing it. Don't fucking... This is... He's just trying to fucking shift
Don't
the
get it twisted,
conversation.
Bill.
Well, you guys said... You guys, meaning one of the fucking million people criticizing me, said this one thing that's factually not true. Therefore, I'm going to smear all of you and act like you're all a problem here. You're all bad actors. It's unbelievably dishonest.
Plus the fact that, you know, if it's everybody against you, maybe you're the drama. You know? Just saying it in the numbers. If everybody kind of sees it the same way, but you don't, and you're the recipient of all that blood money, maybe the drama is you, Bill. Maybe it's you.
Holy shit.
They're going to say I went over there and did a one-on-one show in a fucking tent staring at my toes, and then I left for the head fucking guy, whoever the hell it is over there, right? Once again.
Believe me, he knows who the head fucking guy is over there. It's his name on the fucking bank transfer.
I performed in an arena over there. In the round, there was 8,000 people at the show. Okay? It was citizens. And then they had diplomats.
Who paid for you to be there, Bill? See, that was dishonest of him. Oh, I performed for citizens, 8,000 of them. The implication there is I'm just being paid by regular Saudi people. No, the fuck you're not.
Yeah,
You got
exactly.
over $1 million.
Yeah.
From the fucking crown prince, from the PIF, the public.
You knew
investment
who was
fund,
on that.
the
Yeah,
Saudi blood money.
exactly.
That's where you got the money from. So don't give me this, oh, I performed for 8,000 people. They didn't pay for it. It wasn't Saudi citizens paying for it. It was the theocratic authoritarian dictator who bone-sawed a journalist, executed people for tweets, and did a genocide in Yemen. And the government armed and funded 9/11. Most of the hijackers on 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia.
Nerve-wracking way for the performer to make sure that, you know, you didn't talk about the 2 or 3 things that they said that they negotiated down to not talk about.
I like how he glosses over this. Like, Bill, that's like one of the that's the heart of the problem.
Right.
Or one of the hearts of the problem, right? Is like, well, you know, they had the Royals there to just make sure I didn't say anything that's illegal or anything. It's like, you and every other comedian correctly screamed about free speech for a fucking decade, and now, hey, I signed up to be censored. But it's okay. They only gave me 2 or 3 topics I couldn't talk. Imagine, oh, I went to go perform at Trump's inauguration, but it's okay. He only said I couldn't talk about 2 or 3 topics. He said, you can't make fun of me. You can't make fun of my regime. He said, you can't make fun of religion. You can't make fun of my supporters. But outside of that, it's all fair game. Does that seem like it's something to fucking be proud of? Hey, I only agreed to a certain amount of censorship. Oh, my God.
Again, as I said before, whoever put together the comedy festival and everything, what it did for freedom of speech over there, because, like, before it started, you couldn't talk about all of this stuff, and then they whittled it down to just that.
His trick that he's been trying to do is flip it, where he's pretending like, what do you mean? I'm like a progressive beacon. I'm like a liberal hero because I'm bringing our culture over there. right? He's trying to pretend like
he's the
fact that
ambassador of it.
we're doing comedy there is just a big step in the
Exactly.
right direction in and of itself. He's not looking at it as, I sold out for over $1 million from an authoritarian dictator war criminal pig. And so, like, I'm for sale. I'm a fucking walking billboard. I have no principles. I have no values whatsoever. He's not looking at it like that. He's looking, oh, bro, we whittled down the list. Originally we weren't allowed to talk about 10 things. We whittled it down to 2 or 3. So aren't I a free speech hero? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, Bill. He's cooked. He's done. Zero respect for him. Total piece of shit. I hope everybody unsubscribes from his channel. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Unsubscribe. Unsubscribe from his channel. Fucking dislike the video. Don't go to his fucking comedy events. Like, this guy, he's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. And what's so sad is he was the one, right? He was the one that was actually, you know, repping left values for a while there.
And here's the other side of this thing. Kathy Griffin, who was caught up in all of this stuff because of her beheading picture, which, to be honest, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I mean, I don't care. It was something that she did. She was then sorry about it, didn't want, you know, it to be the thing that took her down. She went through hell and high water with the different regimes that came in place. Biden's was no different than Trump's. And it just was a shitstorm and nearly ruined her. And she now has a new special out where she talks about all of the stuff. And like she says, her comedy is just, you know, celebrity stories. It's just, you know, light, fluffy stuff, really. It's observational comedy. Okay, it's not political comedy. And yet she was the one who was taken to task and had to prove to the investigators and everything. And eventually they decided not to push it. And then the parts they did push, she won. But she really is the litmus test for comedy and free speech, what she went through. And there is a video she has up on her channel. It's a hell of a story. Definitely should check it out. She has her new PTSD list comedy special that just hit. Please go support her. She still is one of our voices out there who understands this shit from the inside of being investigated, but politically. So definitely should give her all the kudos and lauding that she deserves, because she weathered the storm for the rest of us. And it's only getting worse. So, you know, if you think it's not, you got another thing coming. Anyways, let's get back to what Kyle's saying.
He just had this default class politics, which is exactly how so many of us feel, right? The problem is not trans people, it's not immigrants. The problem are the billionaire robber barons and the corporations and the corruption of our government. That's the problem. It's 99% versus 1%. Always has been, always will be. We need to fight back. He represented that. But then, as the commenter pointed out, Bill Burr thinks billionaire bad, but trillionaire good.
And that is how, you know, if you truly care about stuff like that, you gradually move towards something more positive.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Incrementalism over here. The guy who said put down billionaires like dogs is like, all of a sudden, he's an incrementalist. I mean, I like free speech, but maybe we can tiptoe slowly towards more free speech and slowly open up. Guys, this would be a different story, and I think everybody agrees with this. This would be a different story if you had some, like, startup fucking comedy club that scraped together, hey, Bill, we'll pay you $15,000 or $50,000 or even $100,000, you know, from the people of Saudi Arabia. Come and do your stand-up act. That's one thing. I don't think anybody would be shitting on him. But when you have the Saudi government comedy washing their atrocities, just like they fucking sports washed their atrocities, and you go there and you're the fucking useful idiot, and then you say stuff like this, it's totally unacceptable.
All right? I mean, and I have to tell you, all right, all of this sanctimonious shit out there, I'm going to tell you something right now. I saw, in 33 years of stand-up, I've never seen anybody with bigger balls, and I'm not going to say the name of the comedian, even though you're going to figure it out, but I'm just trying not to get anybody else this fucking shit coming at him. Went on over there, openly gay, and in the middle of the set, two of the diplomats got up to go to the bathroom, and this person said, hey, where are you going? Are you going to go on Grindr? I mean, I've seen them all. I've never seen anybody. It's like, I don't have the balls to say that. And the fact that her own people came at her and all of that, it's disgusting.
No, you're the fucking disgusting one, man. None of you guys talked about 9/11. None of you talked about the genocide in Yemen. None of you talked about Jamal Khashoggi. None of you made fun of the royals. You're not heroes. You're total fucking sellouts. So just like spare me the fucking, you know, the comedians who suck themselves off like they're the fucking, you know, the beacon of civilization and the light and the future and the only truth tellers in society. Like, no, they're paid hacks.
And also just understand that comedy and comedians are born out of a lot of trauma. Most comedians have had very shitty lives. Very shitty lives. And they're not very well adjusted from a mental health standpoint in many respects. And what they do is they write the comedy to cope with the world they see around them that is truly very shitty. So comedy is pain. Comedy is transformative pain. And once you understand that, then you really kind of see where these comics lie in how they see the world. Which is why we have our favorites and we don't have our favorites, you know, because we can see where the pain is coming from. You can literally break it down. You can de-engineer the jokes to find out what's at the root of it. Anyways, let's continue.
They're paid hacks, and this settles it too, by the way, because this was the only guy who really had like, I mean, look, I actually want to be fair and I want to be kind to the real one. Shane Gillis didn't accept the money. David Cross ripped all these guys who went. Mark Maron, of course, but like, there's so few that deserve our respect and our credit. So few with actual integrity and values and principles that say like, no, this actually it would be immoral for me to take this money. So few of them. And now for him to fucking double down and triple down and try to cover his ass and accuse everybody of criticizing him of lying, it's like, bro, read the fucking room, dog. Read the room. I get
right. If you were going to do this, this is how I see it. If you were going to do this, this would be your crowning. I'm out. I'm retiring after this, because you're not going to have much of a career after this. There's really no coming back from this. This is a Roseanne Barr kind of level of rampant stupidity. I mean, he fucked himself big time, and he's going to have the consequence of his own actions. Again, accountability. Bill, you're Gen X. You understand accountability more than most of the other generations, because we had to grow up ourselves. We had to bring ourselves up. We had to learn the hard knocks from life directly. You forgot, man. You forgot that basic tenet of a Gen Xer. You knew better. You did. You knew better. But you still wanted that bag. Okay, you got the bag. I hope 1.6 million tops it off so it makes you a billionaire or something. I doubt it. But unless you're planning a big circuit comedy specials throughout the Eastern Bloc countries and Hungary and Viktor Orban, and unless you're planning on doing that, don't know if much of the West is going to be quite so open-armed about you doing this. You know, like I said, if I was going to do it and I was a comedian, it would be my final bow. I'm out. I'm retired. I'm no longer in comedy. That'd be about the only way that I would do something like this. And it would strictly be for the money. You know? And I'd make it very clear that that's what I was doing. That I'm in, I'll do it, I'm out, I'm gone. You'll never hear from me again. It's about the only other way I could see that it could work out.
And he's probably not a comments reader or whatever, and I get that. I'm also not a comments reader. But at the same time, when you're this fucking out of touch over the shit, and you are lighting yourself on fire in front of the world, maybe make an exception. Maybe make an exception and see what people are saying, and see what the actual criticisms are, instead of straw-manning every criticism of you.
It really is. That's what they're going to clip. That's what they're going to clip. Bill says fucking the reaction to da-da-da is this. And I'll tell you what else is amazing and really confusing to me is what we did over there wasn't even on TV. However, what everybody's complaining about was on TV the week before. On a different event, and nobody said anything. So, you know, and that's the difference between being a billion-dollar conglomerate and being an independent contractor. It's kind of like, you know, if you go back to like, I don't want to talk anymore about it, but like I said, like I would love to answer all of this stuff. I'm not afraid of any of these questions. I would love to answer them. You know, it's just that the way that it is being used, and My favorite thing, I did a couple of sets last night, and I didn't run into any of the special ones when I was down there, but I'm really looking forward to that when I do, because I know this is how this shit goes down, Yada, yada, yada is said over here, and then when you run into the person face to face, this is what's always said. Hey, man.
Oh, so he's talking about if I run into Shane Gillis or if I run into David Cross or if they're gonna not keep that same energy. All right, so what do you want? You want them to run up and punch you in the fucking face? Is that what you want?
Hey, man. How's it going, man? Just checking in on you, man. Are you doing okay?
Yeah. Oh, the real problem here is that these comedians who correctly criticized us, they're two-faced. They'll be nice to me, but then they'll also say that it was wrong for me to take money from a genocidal dictator. Oh, how unreasonable of them.
Man, that fucking bullshit. That phony-ass bullshit.
Like, you're the fucking phony one. That's the point. Oh, my God. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to fucking crash out, bro.
But I'm not going to lie to you. How do I put this? Do you know when you just sort of, no matter what the behavior is, but you just know a person, so you just expect it, so it doesn't bug you? That's kind of how it is. So I sort of expect that.
Oh, yeah. He's not mad. He's just disappointed in you, Shane Gillis and David Cross and Mark Maron and whoever else. Correctly criticize them. I think a lot of his fans would have probably been able to get over it if he just came out and told the truth.
Yeah.
If he just came out and was like,
yeah.
Look,
that.
Is it fucked up? Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Yeah, they did 9/11. Yeah, they fucking killed Jamal Khashoggi. Yeah, they did a genocide in Yemen. Yeah, they're one of the worst governments in the world. But I gotta be honest, man, they offered me $1.6 million. And that's a lot of fucking
money. You could respect that.
And it's only for like a day or
but
two.
The fact that he's obfuscating it with all this bullshit that he's talking about?
Yeah, I bent my morals. I fucking I took the money. Am I proud of it? No, but my bank account's kind of happy. If he just came out and said that, I think many people in his audience would be like, look, it was fucked up, but he just fell for the temptation. What are you going to do, right? But this is next level. This is man, this is scoundrel behavior. This is scoundrel cretinous behavior, This is like the guy who's caught red-handed, guilty as fuck, just trying to, no, my neighbor did it. Bob, arrest Bob. That's what this feels like.
Do you know what I did?
And the thing is, with this whole situation with these comedians who took this money, I think it's the duplicitousness of it all. That's the part that's really under everyone's skin. If they admitted that, it just was a lot of great money and that's why I did it. Yeah, we can get that. We're all hookers in one way or another. We're all, we all hoe ourselves out for our time and our expertise and our talents. That's what having a job is. You a hoe. You're still a hooker working for the man. So we all do it to some level and to some degree. But, when you look at comedians like this and the way that they try to wordsmith and word salad their way out of it, it's just, it rings false. It just rings like it's wrong. It's off. It's tone deaf. It's off. It just, it's not legit. It's not authentic. It for what it is. It's smoke and mirrors. That's what it is. And it's really kind of tragic. Anyways, that's where I'm going to stop with this one. I do want to bring up a couple of news articles that I found were kind of concerning. We have the conservative-led U.S. Supreme Court looks to set a rule and to rule against Colorado's conversion therapy ban. This is extremely troubling. This was written by Chantal Bilson for the Pink News. Colorado's 2019 law states a therapist licensed by the state are not allowed to eliminate or reduce same-sex attraction or change a person's behaviors or gender expression, with each violation punishable by a fine up to $5,000 and potential loss of the license. The law adds that therapists may provide acceptance, support, and understanding. The case of Childs v. Salazar will determine the legality of state and federal laws that bar medical professionals from subjecting people under the age of 18 to practices that can supposedly change their sexuality or gender identity. The case was brought before the Supreme Court in March after a Christian mental health counselor, Kaylee Childs, who was backed by President Donald Trump's administration in the dispute and represented by the Alliance Defending Freedom. Anytime you have a group that says they're defending freedom or they're moms for liberty, just know it's the exact opposite. They're trying to chattel you and censor you and prohibit you from doing what they're saying they're for, in this case, defending democracy, defending freedom. They sued the state of Colorado over the protective law, claiming it violated her right to free speech. Childs has said she believes that people flourish when they live consistently with God's design, including their biological sex. On Tuesday, October 7th, Supreme Court, where conservative justices hold a 6-3 majority, appeared already to rule against Colorado's protective law. As supported by Reuters, conservative justice signaled sympathy towards Childs, but liberal justice stood their ground in arguing that Colorado has a duty to ban healthcare practice it considers unsafe and ineffective. Colorado Solicitor General Shannon Stevenson, who highlighted that the practice has no record of success, told justices that the law regulates conduct, not speech, arguing that the power to regulate safety in healthcare should not be changed just because they are using words. Conservative Justice Don Roberts hit back, stating just because they're engaged in conduct doesn't mean that their words aren't protected. Conservative Justice Samuel Alito also seemed to side with Child's claim, telling Stevenson, "It seems to me your statute dictates opposite results in these two situations. Looks like blatant viewpoint discrimination." James Campbell, a lawyer for Childs, told the justices that the law prohibits counselors like Childs from helping minors pursue state disfavored goals on issues of gender and sexuality. The law prophylactically bans a voluntary conversation, censoring widely held views on debated moral, religious, and scientific questions, Campbell added. Conversion practices can involve traumatic behavior modification and aversion therapy rooted in outdated belief that LGBTQ people can be cured. Those subjected to them often develop mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and social ideation. And the other thing is they also tend to go back to being queer. That's a thing. And so that part of it is rather troubling. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was that we have Samuel Alito, who, along with Clarence Thomas, is the dumb and dumberer of the contingency on the right in the Supreme Court. He's saying that Conservative Justice Samuel Alito has suggested that he does not intend to overturn U.S. Supreme Court decision granting marriage equality, despite his previous statements otherwise. Alito also discussed Obergefell v. Hodges in the 2015 ruling in which the court determined the laws for prohibiting same-sex couples from marrying are unconstitutional during a speech at a conference in Washington, D.C. He said that the 2022 ruling overturning the right to an abortion nationally, Dobbs v. Jackson, was not meant to disturb other cases. In commenting on Obergefell, "I'm not suggesting that the decision in that case should be overruled," Alito said. "As I said in my opinion for the court in Dobbs more than once, nothing in Dobbs was meant to disturb Obergefell." Alito was one of 4 dissenting voices in Obergefell. While the court has made no official move to reconsider the case, 9 states have introduced resolutions asking the court to hear it again. None have yet passed, and even if they were to, the resolutions are non-binding, meaning they carry no legal weight, and the court is not obligated to hear them. Kim Davis, a county clerk in Kentucky who was sued by a same-sex couple for refusing to issue them a marriage license, has also appealed the verdict against her to the Supreme Court and included in her filing a petition to overturn Obergefell. The court has also not yet agreed to hear her case. Alito previously wrote that the court rejected an appeal from Davis in 2020 that marriage equality should be left to the states, suggesting that Obergefell should be reversed. In Obergefell, the court read a right to same-sex marriage into the 14th Amendment, even though that right is found nowhere else in the text. Alito said. Several members of the court noted that the court's decision would threaten the religious liberty of many Americans who believe that marriage is a sacred institution between one man and one woman. If the states had been allowed to resolve this question through legislation, they could have included accommodations for those who hold those religious beliefs. Other conservative justices, Clarence Thomas and Amy Coney Barrett, weighed in on the effort to overturn marriage equality. Thomas said during a recent appearance at the Catholic University's American Columbus School of Law that he would not follow court precedent if I find it doesn't make any sense. I don't think that any of these cases that have been decided are the gospel, Thomas said, and I do give perspective to the precedent, but the precedent should be respectful of our legal tradition, our country, our laws, and based on something, not just something somebody dreamt up and others went along with. If Obergefell is reversed, marriage equality would be outlawed in 31 states. Marriages between same-sex couples would still be recognized federally under the Respect for Marriage Act, signed into law by President Joe Biden in 2022, which mandates that the federal government recognize same-sex and interracial marriages and that all states recognize those performed in other states. So yeah, those are two things that are rather troubling. There's another one that I couldn't find the article, so I'll try and find it for tomorrow's broadcast. But there was a article that I saw talking about the zombie knuckle dragging mouth breather Stephen Miller and Kash Patel working on trying to do oppressive searches and seizures and involving themselves in people they deem as sexual deviants. So we're looking at another Lavender Scare era. So that's something else, and I'll find that article and I'll have it available to you, soon. But I think I'm going to wrap it up here for today. That's kind of what I wanted to give a rundown on. I will say that tomorrow I'll have some more information on the what I just talked about the uh, lavender scare that's coming up, because it is quite troubling. I have a few more things on social contracts, so there will be another set of videos that we can watch that talk about this from a social contract standpoint and from a social media standpoint. I also will bring up the More Perfect Union video on why restaurant food is all starting to taste the same and what the problem is and how it relates to the farmer situation here in America. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow. And I will be here again at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, talking about these topics. I hope you can join me. Take care. We'll talk soon.